Hello, I'm John Wagnon, minister of New Discovery Christian Church, and I want to share with you our story. I first got interested in starting churches, church planting, back in 1990, late 90s, let's just put it that way. And the reason I got interested in church planting is because studies show that new churches reach more people for Christ than older churches, so that got my attention. So I began to research it, read about it, got excited about it, and I went to the North American Christian Convention down in Orlando, Florida, and I noticed they were looking for a guy to plant a church in Hernando, Mississippi. Well, I grew up in Corinth, Mississippi, about 80 miles east of here, so I thought, well, that'd be good to get back to my home state and maybe do something I'm really interested in doing. So I sent in my resume, and I waited and waited and waited. And it was a group of churches, an association of churches that wanted to plant the church. That's who I sent the resume to. And after going through the process, meeting with them, doing the interviews, they finally decided that I was their guy. So in 2002, I accepted the challenge to move from Harriman, Tennessee, which is up near Knoxville, to Hernando to start the church. So me and my family, at the time it was just my wife and son, we came here to start a church. Sometimes in church planting circles, they refer to this as a cold start or being parachuted in. It's where you don't have a core group at all. You don't have a mother church. You have nothing. It's just you. And it's on you to raise up a team of people to launch the church. So we got here in spring of 2003 and immediately started trying to form a launch team to launch the church. So any contacts I could get, anybody I heard of that was interested in church, people I'd meet on the street, I was doing everything I could to get a group of people together to help start a church. And it was scary. I look back at now and I didn't realize how tough it was going to be. There's an old expression that says, fools rush in where angels dare to tread. And that's kind of describes me. I didn't really know how big a challenge it actually was going to be. But immediately we started making contacts, meeting people, trying to find out who might be interested in launching the church. And all in all, we held our first meeting at my house in my living room with a whopping 16 people present. Two of them I had borrowed from another church because I wanted to make it look like somebody was there and interested. So that's where it started, in my living room. And from then on, we started holding Bible studies on Tuesday nights.
When I was hired by John Wagnon, I was currently playing at a church in Memphis, Tennessee, and I was playing guitar in the praise band. And through a friend, I heard that there was a church starting up in Hernando and that they were looking for a worship minister and a youth minister. And so I heard from a friend that this new church plant was starting up, and it just kind of went from there. My name is Chad Hoyer. I am the worship and outreach minister at New Discovery Christian Church. When I came on staff, I was actually still working at Federal Express, and so I came on staff part-time in the very beginning. The church was actually not meeting on Sundays yet when I came on board. We were just doing small groups in homes. Pretty quickly after I came on staff, we began to meet in a member's living room for a couple of Sundays. That didn't last too long because we quickly grew. But in the very, very beginning, when I first came on staff, it was actually in someone's home on Sunday mornings. And so that was pretty neat. We quickly moved to the VFW after that.
So as we started to grow, getting close to 20 people, I needed a bigger house. So one of the people that had started meeting with us allowed to let us meet in their house on Sundays. And we continued to meet there, but we felt like we needed something a little more public. Problem was, at the time, Hernando didn't have many places to meet. It was a few strip malls here and there, but they were all taken. Everything I tried to do seemed to fall through. I finally was able to meet in a bar.
First started the church, we just started doing Bible studies in John's house on Wednesday nights, what it started out as. And then after we got us a pretty good group, we had our first church service, I believe, at Nat Miller's house. There were about 20 of us in Nat's house. We did that for 1 week, and then we moved to the VFW down on 51 in Hernando. My name's Robbie Pace. I'm an elder at New Discovery Christian Church. I've been here since the beginning, 2003, I believe it is. How I got here was Chad Hoyer and I, we attended the same church in South Haven, and he got this job as the youth minister and music minister, and called me up one day and said, "Hey, I need you and your family to help us start this church in Hernando." So we said, okay, and we came down, and Chad said, "Well, this particular Sunday, I want you to meet the preacher. He's going to be at another church in Memphis, and so come there and get to meet John and Wendy and Javan, and we'll go from there." So that Sunday we went to church, and John introduced himself, shook my hand, said, "So I hear you're going to play bass for us." And I turned around and looked at Chad and said, "What?" And he said, "Oh yeah, I forgot to tell you, bass practice starts this Friday at John's house." And I was floored because I'd never picked up the bass before. He had taught me how to play guitar just a little bit. I could fumble around on a couple of songs, and like I said, I sang a little bit, but lo and behold, I became the bass player day one, and our first gig was about 2 months later, so we had a lot of cramming to do.
One of the first obstacles we encountered when we first moved to Hernando was having a place to hold a Sunday morning worship service. The original plan was to meet in a school, but none of the schools were open to letting us meet there. So I looked in strip malls, I went to warehouses, I went to all kind of places trying to find a place for us to meet on Sunday mornings, until finally I was driving south of town on 51 one day and saw the VFW Club, which is really a bar. Okay, this is where we first started out. First place we held a worship service outside of a home. This is the dance hall area of the VFW, and this was the stage. I would preach from up in this area. Of course, we had the band set up and the drums and guitars and things up here. On this wall right here, there used to be a giant parachute. And that parachute, it seemed like it held in all the cigarette smoke. Because when you would leave here on Sunday morning, you would smell like a cigarette because so many cigarettes had been smoked in here the night before. While the worship service was going on in here, the children's church was in the bar area.
I remember that it smelled like beer and cigarettes, and my experience at getting baptized at a VFW, again, it's a bar, and actually I tell people that pretty regularly. And when I witness to people, like, "Hey, did I ever tell you I was baptized in a bar?" And people do a double take, like, "What?" Yeah, so my church used to meet at the VFW, which is a bar, and one day I just felt the urge that I wanted to be baptized, so I called Chad up and we talked through it, and the following Sunday they set up the little portable baptistry, and I was baptized in a bar. And I think 2 weeks later we moved over to the school. So I like that I was baptized in a bar, because it just shows that you can be baptized anywhere. It doesn't matter. It's not the building, it's the Holy Spirit. My name is Jim Tessier. Back in the day, Robbie and I were non-believers. So when I was at dinner with him, all he could talk about was New Discovery Church. And he's like, "Yo, you gotta come to this church. It's a great church. It's pretty awesome." Me still being a non-believer at the time, I kind of blew him off, right? But that Sunday came along, and I said, why not? So I went down to, it was actually at the VFW, which is a bar, and I sat there and I saw this like 5-piece band performing music, and Robbie's up there playing bass, which I never seen Robbie play an instrument, because back when we hung out, he never played anything. And in fact, I used to play guitar and he'd sing, and it was about maybe 10 people in the church. And I knew I found something special.
Yeah, I'll never forget the old, I think it was a shuffleboard in right there by the bar, and the kids' room was in the dance hall, I think. And those were I didn't think of it, I was 14, 15 at the time. I didn't think of it as being too crazy as some adults might have at the time, but I enjoyed it. I mean, the big room was where we worshipped, and John would preach, and back when we only had acoustic guitar, a bass, and drums, and those were and maybe an electric guitar here or there with Jim. But yeah, I mean, I have fond memories of the VFW. We weren't there very long, I don't think. I think it was less than a year, maybe a year or so. But my name's Daniel McLean. I've been going to New Discovery for 16 years now. 2003, the summer of 2003 is when I started coming. Me and my mom started visiting. And
The VFW Club, Highway 51 South.
At the time I joined New Discovery Church, the meetings were being held at Hernando Middle School cafeteria. And it involved setting up and taking down each and every Sunday the chairs and et cetera. And it was enlightening to see the depth of warmth and the eagerness to help out with everyone in the church. My name is Harry Grubbs. I'm a deacon for New Discovery Christian Church in Hernando, Mississippi.
Okay, this is where we put our church banner. We strung it between these two columns. I'd take a couple of bungee cords and put it around the top. I'd literally have to bring a ladder out here and go up the column, put the bungee cord around the tops and string it up there, and then put the bungee cords around the bottom. But it did take a ladder to get it up high enough so when people came through, they could walk under it. But it looked really nice when you pulled in. You could see, New Discovery Christian Church on the banner. And then on the back of the banner, it said, you are now entering the mission field. So when you first would get out of your car and come in, you'd see the banner, walk under the banner, and walk down the sidewalk. I would set a sign right here, like a little A-frame sign that said New Discovery Christian Church, had an arrow pointing this way, so they would know to turn here. Okay, this is where we used to set up. We used to have our sound booth right over here for the sound, and then the chairs would be set up out here facing those windows, and our big screen used to be over here in this corner, and we had a rear projection screen where the projector would be in the corner, and it would be shooting out and be behind the screen. You couldn't see the projector, but that kept everything out of the way, and that worked out real well. And then we had this big, giant, black backdrop that went in front of these windows to kind of block out the light and kind of made everything look real neat.
People pulled together to help get our portable church up and running. It required people coming a couple hours early before church and setting up the kids zone area and the communion area and the whole worship area. Not to mention the band who had to set up their equipment and be practicing for that. Every Sunday, no matter where we were, we always had visitors come and visit us. And the Lord was supporting us, helping us out, and bringing the people to us each Sunday. And then He would provide teachers for us to teach, do the different jobs that are required during the service. He always had people who would help us pack up everything back into the trailer so that we could have it ready for the next week. So that was another way that God provided and brought the people to us to help in that area because it was a lot of work. My name is Wendy Wagnon, and I have been here with New Discovery since early part of 2003 with my husband.
Our kids area, children's area, was through this door right here. And we had a check-in area out here in the hallway, and they couldn't get beyond this point without being checked in. And then this was the nursery area in here. This is the computer lab. And we had these dividers that we would set up in front of the computers. That way it was like a room in here without computers, but the computers were behind the dividers. And this worked out really well. Okay, this is the kitchen area. And whenever we would have a meal after church, we could use some of these ovens to keep stuff warm. And that worked out real well. Also, I would go over my notes back here. Sometimes I like to kind of go over my sermon, looking at my notes and kind of out loud, and I could get back here away from everybody and it would be somewhat private. This is the door where we would unload, where we would set up, we would use this door, and for the longest time we didn't realize that this this beam would come out. So when we had a baptism, we'd have our baptism out here on this patio. And sometimes it would be kind of cold, but later on we found out that we could get, this comes out real easy, so we could roll our portable baptistry into here and have our baptisms in here, just like any other church would have their baptisms.
My name is Lily Hurt. I started attending New Discovery Church in 2004. I received a postcard in the mail, and I just happened to be looking for a church, and so I attended with my 4 children, and we enjoyed it, so we just kept coming back. Ladies' nights were always fun, and Bible study. I enjoyed getting to know people, learning the Word. It felt like a community. That's pretty much what our church is about, is fitting in, and even though everybody has different personalities, you know, it's still a community, and I enjoy that.
Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. Proverbs 25 verse 11. Even a child is known by his actions.
It's 1st and 2nd Peter, 1st and 2nd, 3rd John, Jude, and Revel. He guides me in the path of righteousness for his name's sake.
My name is Dorothy Parker. My first attendance with New Discovery was in September 2003 at the middle school. I think that some of the best memories of New Discovery were meeting in different homes and fellowshipping, and we often traveled together to Water Park on weekends, and that was a lot of fun. It helped me to get to know people better and quicker and develop friendships. The ladies' night was a lot of fun because we would do different activities like scavenger hunts or meals at each other's homes, pampered chef parties, and things of that nature. It was a lot of fun.
And on Sunday morning, it wasn't unusual for me to see Zach Jarvis in here shooting basketball. That's one thing I remember him as a little kid. He was always in here. His dad would be with him, and they'd be shooting basketball. Now on Wednesday nights, we did use the gym on Wednesday nights for youth activities. But on Sunday morning, we pretty much stayed out of here other than maybe somebody wanting to play basketball or something like that.
My name is Kim Mundy. I started here in the spring of 2004 in the middle school. And at that point, we then went to Wednesday night Bible studies at John's house, which had already been going on for several years. And I think the most memorable moment that I have is we talk so much about the man being the spiritual leader of the households. This is where my daughter met her husband, Chad. And he has definitely proven to be the spiritual leader of their household and a great influence on all of those around him.
Later on in our history, we were able to purchase a piece of property at 961 Vinson Road. That's just south of Hernando. And we had been saving up money for a building fund so that we could purchase the property and get in a building. Obviously, we weren't able to save up enough money to do that, so we did have to take a loan out. We had our official groundbreaking service at our new property on our 5-year anniversary. We kind of rolled them both together in one. We met inside a big tent on our new property. The problem was it was raining that day, and it was almost a storm. There was so much water. Water was coming under the tent. We literally stood in the rain as we worshiped. One cool thing about that service is that we got to unveil our future building plans to the people so everybody could see it. We had it shining up on part of the tent, which served kind of like a screen. We had our projector out there, and everybody was able to see the new building, what it would look like, kind of give them a vision, get everybody excited, and it worked. And it was just a great day. We had like 180 people in attendance, so that was a very exciting day for us, even though it was raining. Well, after the building was designed, we took bids to see how much it was going to cost, and once we saw how much it was going to cost, then we started trying to figure out, well, how are we going to finance this? Where are we going to get the money to pay for this? And one of the ways we decided to get the money is through a bond issue. So we had this bond issue where I invited people from all over the state of Mississippi to come. Everybody that I knew that I thought might be interested, people out of state, I was calling them up. So it was a big deal to have this bond issue. And the guy selling the bonds that was overseeing it, he told me I could go ahead and get started with the construction, and then they would catch the money up. And we did have a little bit of extra money from our building fund left over from after we had enough to buy the land, and we had enough to get the building project started, the construction of it anyway. He said, go ahead and get started, and then we'll catch up that money, that you're out of if it goes beyond that. So I said, okay. So we went for it. I started contacting people, and all these people were set to come together on a specific date on a Sunday to buy the bonds. Meantime, construction process is going, they're building our building. Well, at the last minute, the bond company calls and tells me they're not going to be able to do it. Well, in the meantime, the construction is going forward. Now I'm owing money that I don't have. I've got people scheduled to come from all over the state to this bond issue that I've been trying to sell to all these people. And now they're calling me at the last minute saying, we don't think we're going to be able to do it. Needless to say, I was very anxious. I called them up, give them a sad story. Say, please, let me talk to the president. Well, he won't talk to you, they told me. And so I said, well, give me his number anyway. I want to call and leave him a message. Sure enough, he wouldn't talk to me, but I left him a message explaining the situation. I've invited people from all over the state to come, people from out of state to come. The construction's already going forward. I need you to issue these bonds because you said you were going to do it. Now you've changed your mind. Fortunately for me, they agreed to come and sell the bonds. One of the problems we found, though, the building design was going to require a good bit more money than I could borrow, but we did find a guy that said he could do it. Out of all the other, we took the bids in, just couldn't come up with the money, but this one particular guy said he could do it for the price that we could afford. And we checked him out. He'd built several churches in the area. Everything was clear, looked like he could do good work, so we brought him on, and he was the guy that had already gotten the ball rolling. He had already gotten started. And to make a long story short, about midway through the construction process, he takes off. He goes out of business with some of our money. And we're left with a building that's not completed. And I'm still in a process of going to have to make payments to the bond company and going to have to make a rent payment to the school. This is not a good situation that we're in. Make matters worse, the building inspector comes out to look at what the contractor had already done before he took off, and he looks at the building and says, well, he's used inferior metal studs all around this building, and your choice is either to tear down what's already been built, or you can go back and put the right metal studs in between the ones that are the wrong gauge. But that turned into a major catastrophe. We had to have someone come in and rescue us, and that was where my friend Randy Garrett comes in, a guy I graduated high school with. He was the guy that kind of came to the rescue already by doing the site work for us. He was a civil engineer, but he wasn't a contractor. So he came and decided he would try to get his contractor license. This big, thick book he had to study. He studied the book, went down to Jackson, Mississippi, passed the test the first time, came back with his contractor license, and he was able to gather and get the subcontractors together, and they were able to finally finish off our building after over 2 years of waiting. And it really was almost anticlimactic because it took so long to finally get in the building. But we did. Finally, on Christmas Eve of 2011, we got to have our very first service in our building. The building wasn't totally finished, but it was finished enough.
Come on in. Welcome to New Discovery.
No grave is all that feels to compare. You say you want all of me, I wouldn't have it any other way. I gotta save you anything in me. Whoa, I wanna tell you today, it's all the best thing that has happened to me. And the world will never take, the world will never take you away. I gotta save you anything in me. Whoa, I wanna tell you today, it's all the best thing that has happened to me. And the world will never take, the world will never take you away.